Team, this is George. I just want to go over the JetBlue case study that is due this week, Sunday, September 3rd, by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And these documents here, I imagine everybody has gone over them pretty thoroughly looking at this. The JetBlue instructions rubric, the example, and the case study proposal facts and tips. So I just want to kind of go over that and give a few pointers if you happen to be strapped for time or anything like that. So first off, if we come over here to the rubric and instructions, what I love about this is here's our rubric, and it talks about 30 points that this project is worth, and talks about description, explanation, recommendations, description of framework. Well, what you can do, and you can take, let's go ahead and take overview program to be evaluated, why evaluate the program, recommendations, rationale, framework. You put an introduction and a conclusion in there and use these four headings as headings in your paper. You have successfully built the skeleton for your paper. Now you just have to go in and add what the requirements are for that piece right there. So that's an easy way. So if you're not sure exactly how to start or anything else, go directly to this rubric, look at the bolded considerations here, because this is exactly what's going to be graded right here. So it's going to correlate directly. So if you'd like to make your headings with that, perfectly acceptable. It works very well. And what some, as a description of the training program as presented in the case study, you're going to have to make some assumptions there. Go ahead and make that fairly robust with your assumptions more than just what is stated in the case study. And that happens a lot. You have to go in and find more information because what happens when you're working with other companies like that, and many of you have probably can relate to this and have had gone through this, is they know exactly what they're thinking, but they don't always articulate it to you. So they know exactly what they're thinking, what their perspective, what their thoughts are, but they don't bring that completely to the table, not by any mischievous reasons. It's just they know it and they assume others know it and we don't. So an explanation of why an evaluation is warranted and explain the purpose of the evaluation. So what is the purpose of the evaluation? You want to tie that back with the CEO comments, because Lucy learned we have to give her some tools to help educate the CEO and executive leadership. So and we need to help her explain why evaluation is warranted in a very succinct way, because execs, they don't want to hear a lot of the ed speak or anything like that. They just want to know how it's going to help them, what's in it for them. So we really have to approach the purpose and the evaluation and what the tools we're going to give Lucy to that perspective of what Lucy's going to be able to use to educate them. So when we're explaining why an evaluation is warranted or the purpose of the evaluation, think of it from those terms. And then we have the recommendations for the evaluation clearly described. Now, that does not mean that you have to create the evaluation. That would be entirely too much work for this project. You just have to come up with the evaluation from 30,000 foot level, as they say. You're not going to go in, you're not actually going to create the evaluation here. So title, quick summary of what it should do. You're not going to go in and actually work the mechanics or work the inner workings of the tool, of the assessment tool. Recommendations are reflective of JetBlue's needs. Remember, customer, customer, customer. You can have the single greatest plan in the world, but if it does not fit their needs, not going to happen. It simply doesn't work. It's no longer the greatest thing ever. One time I was on a team and we were working on a project for a C-130, and it was basically, keep a long story short, what basically happened was that they were special operations C-130s and they were flying. The pilots felt that they weren't flying crew. They had a bit of a yaw, and we came up with the simply greatest solution ever. It was technically advanced. It was absolutely fantastic. And the cost was, it was going to be a several $1 million project. We put the prototype together and we bid on the contract, and the company that beat us out basically put a washer on a string. So it wasn't that simple, but they were a lot less technically advanced, a lot simpler, but it met the needs of the government that they wanted. So to make a long story short, think of the needs of the JetBlue perspective. You may have to make some assumptions there. Feel free to do that. It's going to be based on Kirkpatrick model. So when you're talking to an executive, your experiences may be different, but you can mention, hey, this is from Kirkpatrick's level 4 models, and this is the industry standard to do this. But if you start diving deep into the different levels, as far as what that means according to what we care about as far as assessment, it's not going to matter to them. Just remember what's in it for them, with. And here our framework. Just make sure your framework is complete, reflects your recommendation. So in other words, it's consistent, and you have the steps. It's a process. So all the framework is a process that you would go through. It doesn't have to be anything detailing out specific ways, specific questions in the tool or anything like that. It's just how the tool is going to be used and when it's going to be used. I like to say who, what, where, when, how, and why. Who's going to use the tool? Who's going to evaluate the data that you get from the tool? So in other words, the assessment. When I say tool, I'm talking about assessment. So who's going to get the data? Who's going to evaluate the data? Who's going to use the data? What data is going to be gathered and evaluated? So that's who, what, when in the process is it going to be gathered, and where is it going to be gathered? Is it going to be gathered out on the floor? Is it going to be gathered in a classroom? Where is it going to be gathered, and why? Who, what, where, when, why, and how. So if you answer those questions, you have a framework and you put the process in order. So I hope this was helpful as far as, there's questions, what, how, when, who, and how. So I hope this was helpful. If you're having a little bit of struggle with this, I am always available, 760-912-9242. You can give me a text. We can get on the web conference in our classroom, or we can just, if it's a simple question, I'll just answer you right back. You can also call if you like. So I hope this was helpful, and good luck with the assignment. Have a great week.